Okay, we're going to take a look at the brain. We're going to identify these structures on the brain model that we have in lab. So again, one of the first things you need to do before we talk about the structures of the brain, you need to know the front from back from side. This right here, the cerebellum, is your landmark to let you know that this is the back of the brain, so this is going to be the front of the brain. Now, if I flip it over, again, there's your cerebellum, so this is the back of the brain, this is going to be the front of the brain. Now, looking at the structures that we need to identify, put this back together. This is going to be the frontal lobe. This is the front of the brain. This is going to be the frontal lobe. This is going to be your parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and see how the striations are kind of going horizontally here? Temporal lobe. The sulci are going to be the wrinkles. All of these wrinkles, these are all sulci. And then the gyri is the raised elevated part of the brain. The raised elevated part. The central sulcus is the dividing line. It's kind of number 5 right here with the arrow pointing to it. The central sulcus is the dividing line between the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe. So this lets you know if the sticker is ahead of that, it's going to be frontal lobe. If the sticker is behind that central sulcus, in this area here, it's going to be parietal lobe. Keep in mind, occipital lobe is going to be way back in the back. Another structure to identify, we're looking now at the front of the brain. Back of the brain, there's the cerebellum. It lets you know this is the back. This structure right here, which separates the two hemispheres, this is the longitudinal fissure. This is the cerebrum. The cerebellum, so the question on the test is if I ask you to name the entire structure, that would be cerebellum. If I just ask you to name the white stuff, that's going to be arbor vitae or tree of life. Either one is fine. This C-shaped structure, which is made of myelinated axons, that's why it's kind of white. This is the corpus callosum. It's what connects the two hemispheres of the brain together. The diencephalon components you're going to need to know. This right here, which kind of looks like an eye, see it has the dot in the center. This whole kind of oblong round structure right here is the thalamus. Now, between the thalamus and the cerebellum, there is this structure right here called the epithalamus, right here. So it's towards the back of the brain. This is the occipital lobe back here. So this is the epithalamus. Now, in the front, again, this is the frontal lobe. So in the front, this kind of triangular structure right here. Notice it's in front of and below the thalamus. This is the hypothalamus. You can also identify it because it's connected to the pituitary gland. The next set you're going to need to know are the parts of the brain stem. So all of this right here is brain stem. If you identify this rounded structure right here, this is going to be the pons. Above the pons is going to be the midbrain. Again, pons is your landmark. Below the pons is going to be the medulla oblongata. Keep in mind we're only talking about to this point right here. So pretend like there's an imaginary line right here, which is representing your foramen magnum, where the spinal cord is going to pass through. So everything above this is brain. Everything below the foramen magnum is going to be spinal cord. So if I put the sticker way down here at the bottom, this is going to be spinal cord. The next thing we're going to look at is some of the parts of the flow of cerebral spinal fluid. So this structure right here, this pathway where cerebral spinal fluid is going to flow from up here around the diencephalon, it's going to flow down the cerebral aqueduct. This little passageway is the cerebral aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvis. Then it's going to empty into this fourth ventricle right here. Notice it's kind of triangular shaped and the cerebellum sits on top of it. So this little structure right here that's kind of a triangle shape, this is the fourth ventricle. Okay, that's it for the model of the brain.